thought I should do something Christmassy for you. So here we go. Here's a reharmonized version of Jingle Bells, and I wanted to do this to show you some techniques that I've picked up just in terms of changing the chords from the originals and perhaps developing some sort of chord techniques that you can apply to different situations. So this is a little bit of fun, but the theory behind it is quite intense, and it could help you later on. So first of all, here we go. Here's an original version, my original version of Jingle Bells. Really simple. Okay, so what we've got there is a very basic sort of 3-chord progression through the tune of Jingle Bells. I'm just going through the chorus that everybody knows. Okay, so we're in the key of C, and we're just playing the chords of C major, F major, and G major. In fact, I put a G7 chord in there just to make it an extra, give it a little bit more depth there. But really, those 3 chords are just bread and butter. Those are just classic sort of harmonized versions of the tune. Okay, so the 3 chords: chord 1 in the key of C would be C, chord 4 would be F, and chord 5, and this time we've turned it into a dominant 7th chord, which is just basically adding in the 7th note to it. You can count up from G, 7 notes: G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So we've added an F to a G chord, and we've got a dominant 7th. So reasonably straightforward for those of you who know about chords. The next step is to go into some tricks about how to reharmonize the tune. So we're going to stick some extra chords in. Now the basis of this is that jazz musicians in particular don't really like to just play 3 chords. They like to play lots and lots of chords. So we're going to try and chuck in as many chords as we can. So in the world of jazz, we know that whenever we go to a target chord, and here we've actually got the F chord and the G chord, kind of target chords really there, aren't they? So we're trying to go to those chords and also come back to the target of C, because we're in the key of C. Whenever we do this, whenever we move towards a target chord, you can put in a 2-5-1 progression. So if we start off with the first bit of the tune. Now, the next bit we're going to go to F. So what we could do is actually play a 2-5-1 progression. Then go to F. So we've gone C, G minor 7, C7, and then F. So already it sounds much more like a jazz piece, because we've got a 2-5-1 in there. This time the bread and butter of jazz music is 2-5-1 progressions. Now the first bit I'm going to go over as well, because once again, jazz musicians don't really like to stay on one chord for too long. They like to throw in as many chords as they can. So playing the chord of C for all of this time, we're doing the 2-5-1 after that. But all of that time on C is way too long. So we're going to put in a little trick. Now this is something that I've picked up, and a lot of players use this to kind of remain in the original key. So we're staying put, and yet we're moving at the same time. So it just offers a little bit more harmonic kind of movement, and yet it's nothing too radical. It's not going into any different key or anything like that. So we're just going to move from chord 1 to chord 2, 3, and then sometimes you can actually go to flat 3. I should say actually that these chords are diatonic, so that they are moving within the key. So we've got C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, and then perhaps E flat minor 7. But this time we're going to just go up C, D, E, and then back to D again. So this is a really nice sort of movement of the key that we're in. It's sort of going through diatonically. It feels like we're moving somewhere else, and yet it's not really that radical. It's not moving to anything hugely complicated. So now with the tune, we might get something like this. So all of a sudden, we've got a reharmonized version of the first section of Jingle Bells. So I think that sounds pretty cool, very, very jazzy. And all we've done is sort of really moved through the progression of diatonic chords and then just stuck a 2-5-1 progression in there as well to kind of hit our target of F, so chord 4. So moving on to the next section, what we would get is after the F chord, so we've gone back to the C there. Now we actually need to get to a G7 chord, which would, the whole point of that G7 chord is to get us back to C. So that is a chord that's being used as a cadence. That's the technical name for it, a cadence. And in jazz music, we often precede that normal sort of chord 5, going back to chord 1, with a chord 2 as well. So now we get D minor 7, G7. Now the cool thing about the proper chord 5 of the key that you're in is that you can chuck anything into it and it sounds amazing, actually, within reason. You'd be surprised how much you can throw in here. So I'm going to do that ending now. So I've added in an A flat, so a flat 9 of the chord, and an E flat or a D sharp, so you can think of that as a sharp 5 or a flat 13. Interesting how that kind of works, yeah? So let's go through the first section that we've got so far. Okay, the next section would be a repetition pretty much of the first bit. Right then, this next section I'm going to use a trick which is called a pedal. So a pedal is just a low repeated note over a series of different chords. And I'm not going to be kind of too fussy about this. In fact, I like to kind of extend this section and make a big thing of it, basically milk the ending. So we're actually going to go to the chord of G, but we're going to keep the note of G in the bass, so we use it as a pedal. We can play an F chord over it, we can play a C, we can play a D minor, we can play G7 or G13 there. We could play any sort of combination of chord, and because that pedal note of G is so powerful, we could actually start to really milk that ending. C. So we're using that chord 5, and we're using the bass note of G, of the root of the 5 chord, as a pedal to then extend through. And that time I was actually throwing in as many chords as I could think of, some even that are not in the key, so chromatic chords. So I think I played an E flat minor 7 over that, which is pretty spicy. You could experiment with that and use it to just sort of see how you can experiment with that. Remember I was saying that chord 5, you can throw anything into it, so it's almost like you can throw any chord over the top of it as well. So you could have a G, an F, a C, a D minor, an E flat minor 7, maybe, it's crunchy, A major-ish, F sharp, you know, just experiment with them and see what comes out and just have a bit of fun with it. Some are obviously going to sound more tense than others, so but that's the whole joy of jazz, is that you can just decide which ones you like. So now we should have the whole thing reharmonized, and you can play it around the piano at Christmas and impress all your friends.